We've all seen the horrific video of Irina Zaruska being stabbed in the neck on public transportation. In Chicago, we have countless examples of women being punched in the face, choked out, robbed, abused, murdered by violent repeat offenders. And your only legislation or in regards to public safety on public transportation is don't smoke, don't smoke.
But you're not going to convince me that the people of Chicago only deserve law enforcement. I get so sick and tired of people believing that the only thing that black and brown and poor people get to get in this city are badges. Mark. No, Mark, I'm answering my question. Of course they are, but you're not going to be able to avoid that if we don't do the things that actually work.
Grace and peace, everybody. We are back. Brandon Johnson. Come on up here to the front of the church. Come on up here, man. Come on. This dude is completely, I believe what we see with Brandon Johnson is that he is an ideologue. Facts and hard truths in front of him don't matter. They have an idea that they believe, and they're going to push that idea no matter what, even when it's proven that the idea won't work, even when it's proven that the idea is crazy, wackadoodle, is not going to come together. It doesn't matter. They want this idea, and they're going to keep doing it. And at the demise of everyone around them. So everybody in Chicago is experiencing the fact that Brandon Johnson wants to do everything except what needs to be done to resolve issues in Chicago, because I believe he has a Marxist ideology that we don't punish crime. We punish rich people. We punish those who are in power. That's what he believes. But watch this video. Shout out to William Kelly. Yo, we need to start following William Kelly. Down in the comments, let me know if you want to. We'll start following him and maybe doing some updates from his perspective. He is the reporter that pretty much every press conference, every time he gets an opportunity to get on the microphone, he just eviscerates Brandon Johnson. I think Brandon Johnson probably hates him more than anybody else. He hates William Kelly more than he hates crime in Chicago. And let me know down in the comments if you want. Maybe we need to start bringing some William Kelly up in here. Shout out to him. Well, anyway, Brandon Johnson had a press conference this week, and he completely lost his mind. He completely lost the plot. All that cool, calm composure he tries to display, well, it didn't report to work.
This morning, I signed an executive order protecting the right to protest in the city of Chicago. Chicago remains a center of civic action, as it has been since our founding. Whether it's the abolitionist movement led by Chicagoans like John and Mary Jones, the uprisings for an 8-hour workday in the Haymarket era, the industrial union movement led by the CIO, the women's rights movement, the civil rights movement, and other collective actions over the last 2 centuries. As history shows us, these peaceful protests have been a true catalyst for social change. This order is about being proactive, as we saw what happened in Broadview just a few days ago, where protesters were shot with less lethal bullets, pepper bullets, for peacefully protesting. With the presence of ICE in our neighborhoods, we can expect Chicago residents to follow in the footsteps of the generations of Chicagoans who came before them and peacefully assemble and protest. The First Amendment clearly states that we have the right to peacefully assemble, petition our government, and speak freely without intervention or fear of retaliation. If the federal government will not uphold this right, then the city of Chicago will. This executive order solidifies our commitment to protecting the constitutional rights of all residents and visitors, including the fundamental right to free speech and, again, to peacefully assemble. With this order, the roles of city departments and agencies and the Chicago Police Department are clearly defined in order to support peaceful protests and the exercise of First Amendment rights. Today, the city of Chicago affirms that peaceful protests and dissent are essential to public safety, democracy, and civic engagement.
We've all seen the horrific video of Irina Zaruska being stabbed in the neck on public transportation. In Chicago, we have countless examples of women being punched in the face, choked out, robbed, abused, murdered by violent repeat offenders. And your
Look at Brandon's face.
Legislation or in regards to public safety on public transportation is don't smoke cigarettes. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the women who have been abused by violent repeat offenders in the city of Chicago?
Well, first of all, my community safety plan is far more substantive than just asking people not to smoke. Our Investments in community safety have been unprecedented, quite frankly, and public safety and community safety will always remain my top priority. Our deputy mayor can speak very cogently about the community safety plan, which is the people's plan. And the ultimate goal is to drive violence down in the city of Chicago, whether it's on a train or in a neighborhood. You know, there are way too many individuals, of course, that have been victimized by violence. And it, again, is my top priority to continue to make sure that we're investing in our detectives division as our detectives bureau coordinates and collaborates with our counterintelligence, and all of our stakeholders come together to drive violence down the city of Chicago. Many of these acts, as you have described, are quite horrific, and that's why I'm working hard every single day to make sure that even with the 30% reduction in homicides, even with the over 35% reduction in shootings and shooting victims, as we continue to get a handle on robberies, look, any act of violence is one act too many, and I'm going to work hard every day to ensure that we build the safest, most affordable big city in America.
Mayor Johnson, we've all seen the horrific video of Charlie Kirk being politically assassinated. In Chicago, we saw an ICE agent reportedly run over by an illegal alien. Many people tell me, real Chicagoans tell me, that it's your violent, racist hate speech that is causing people to commit these acts of violence. What do you say to the real Chicagoans who detest what they call the insipid, insidious, boneheaded hate speech that you engage in on a daily basis?
Well, first of all, I don't engage in hate speech. In fact, I think it's important that we note that, as I've said from the very beginning of this tragedy that occurred in our country, that political violence is not only abhorrent, but it undermines the sensibility of our democracy, and there's no place for political violence. In fact, violence as a whole is something that, as a country and as a nation, that we have to continue to come together to ensure that we eliminate all acts of violence. My prayers, of course, are still with Mrs. Kirk and the two children of Charlie Kirk. But again, we boldly and in very direct terms openly reject all acts of violence, and particularly political violence.
What do you say to the people of Chicago who saw those videos this morning and felt fear and concern for their relatives and loved ones? Well,
look, I understand that the fear and the anxiety is real. That's what this president is attempting to promulgate. That is his tactic. The city of Chicago is a firm, welcoming city. And so in terms of how our local police department will behave, along with my administration, we're going to ensure that the people of Chicago know their rights. We're going to protect people's rights to be able to peacefully assemble and push back against this form of tyranny that is being promulgated throughout our entire country. And then finally, we are putting forth, again, more stronger executive orders to ensure that there are policies in place to ensure maximum protection for the people of Chicago. What I'm also grateful for, though, is that the number of people in this city that have come together and have put their arms around our immigrant community.
Is there any reason for the president to deploy National Guard troops or other armed military personnel to Chicago to focus on crime or violence?
Dr. King referred to militarism as a sickness. Unfortunately, this president is full of that sickness. There are no circumstances under which the deployment of American soldiers should be sent in cities across America. It's actually quite upsetting that this president has seduced a number of American people into his meretricious form of governance that has placed our democracy at incredible risk. That's why I put forth executive orders to ensure maximum protection. That's why we're going to continue to hold firm as a welcoming city. But this is why we're also going to reject this illness of militarism, of racism, the sickness of not being willing to address poverty.
Can you walk through sort of an example of when this policy would come into play?
Well, thank you for that question. Let's look at what happened in Broadview. There's no policy in place that if the federal government interferes with our First Amendment rights, there's no policy in place. This executive order gives a clear order that in the event the federal government tramples on the Constitution, our police department has a responsibility to make sure that we're protecting our democracy.
I really don't think, as I said earlier, Brandon Johnson is an ideologue. It doesn't matter what his policies have been proven to not work. He wants this to be what it is. I mean, he wants the police to fight the federal government, the Chicago police to fight the federal government. That is the craziest. That's got to be scary. Listen how he says that.
And we saw this happen in Broadview, where from a roof you had the federal government with armed, less lethal, bullets, but it's still bullets nonetheless. And so this is why this executive order is critical, because we want to make sure that there's a clear policy on what the CPD has a right to do now under my executive order.
What you meant when you talked here just a moment ago, you said we will protect the taxpayers as much as we can.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So look, we're talking about 176 individuals that are cases of innocent people. And look, we have to right those wrongs. And so as we talk about constitutional policing moving forward, we have to ensure that we build and just build the trust between local law enforcement and the community. And so one of the things that, I directed our corporate counsel to do from day one is that we have to look at these past settlements and we have to find a better strategic way at addressing them. Look, at some point, we're going to have to pay restitution or reparations, quite frankly, to these individuals. And it's going to cost taxpayer dollars.
It sounded as if Chicago was not going to be any target as of last week. Now, this week, here we are. So what do you make of that they on again, off again?
Yeah, the president is unstable. He's an unstable man. He's a very double-minded individual. He is, and there's no secret there. Look, we remain focused in our position as a city, defending and protecting the rights of Chicagoans. That is my reasonable service as mayor of this great city. And I will stand up and against anyone who looks to disrupt and interrupt our democracy.
But why are you not with the same chutzpah, Brandon, fighting against the crime that's in your city? Why are you not fighting against the crime that's causing the president to want to send the National Guard? Rather than fight the National Guard and fight the president because they want to come in and fix the crime problem that you're not fixing, why not fix the crime problem? For the life of me, I don't get. And to be so proud about it, so bold about it, this is insane.
Chicago has a long history of remaining firm and strong when it comes to protecting the civil liberties of people, and I will do that. This is the problem with this president. He has cheapened the office. This is why you don't buy knockoffs. Over time, it withers.
One of the things that I think we saw out of Broadview was the protesters there blocking the ICE agents from coming and going from their facility. Do protesters have a right to prevent the feds from doing their job and coming and going from their facility?
Well, look, this is why this executive order is so critical, right? Because it sets up parameters. Look, I don't have, that particular example that you just raised that has not been brought before me. But again, this is about making sure that in the event the federal government attempts to eliminate the First Amendment right for our folks in Chicago to peacefully be able to assemble, we have now an executive order that specifies what's permitted.
So just to follow up on that, if they were to, for example, block a facility in Chicago, protesters were, and the ICE agents were not able to come and go to do their job, would that be an acceptable form of protest that would be, protected by Chicago police? Or, just so we clarify.
No, just absolutely. Look, there are areas in which the First Amendment can be freely expressed. If someone is in violation of federal law, or if it works outside the parameters of the First Amendment, that's a much different case. But what we're talking about here in Chicago is making sure that the right to be able to peacefully assemble and do that without obstruction from the federal government, that's what this goal of the executive order is.
And just to help me understand further on that point, how would you envision the federal government acting in that way? And what does this really change for what we've seen? We saw, you mentioned the DNC, obviously there was a lot of restrictions.
Here's the thing. Because this president is so unhinged, we just don't know what his directives are going to be. The point is that there's something very fundamental about our country, and that's the ability to be able to peacefully assemble and petition its government. That's what this executive order does. And if the federal government attempts to erode and trample on the Constitution, the city of Chicago is not going to stand for it.
So you're not concerned that ICE is going to poach members of the Chicago Police Department?
Look, first of all, can I just say that it's a horrible way to recruit. It just is. And again, I think the focus is it's making sure that the people of Chicago know that we have a city and a government that is ran with discipline, it's ran with compassion and love, but also ran with real structure, right? And so I don't sit around worrying about, the president's tactics.
So following up on your alleged pants on fire moment on WBEZ today with my colleague Prosperity and the ongoing split sentiment as far as sending in troops to federalized military rather, to Chicago. The remaining question that has yet to be answered, because y'all keep running from it like I'm Marianne Ahern, is what do you, the Illinois Attorney General, and the governor have to offer in lieu of sending in the National Guard, the 101st Airborne, or what have you, to make Chicagoans feel safe in their communities in real time outside of reported statistics and so on?
I think I understand your question. Okay, let me just start with this. How about this? In 1974, there were 970 murders. Okay. 1995, there were 828 murders. 2016, 778 murders. 2021, 805 murders. This has been a problem in this city for a very long time.
I don't think anybody is saying, Mayor Brandon Johnson, the crime has only started under you. They just want to know that you're doing everything possible to resolve it. It hurts my heart to hear this man say, well, back in 50 years ago, we almost had 1,000, and then we had 850, and now we're at 825. Is that not too many? Is not one person being killed in your city just too many, especially when it's avoidable, when there's things that you know that you're not doing? You're not putting enough police on the street. You have taken shot finder out. You have removed all of these barricades to crime running free and rampant, only for you to be doing double backflips in an Olympic level for undocumented people and people that are not supposed to be here legally. Sir, I hate it, man. Chicago, y'all deserve better than this. Please stop voting for these people.
Now, my deputy mayor, Gatewood, this is the topic and the work every single day to drive violence down in the city of Chicago. So when you talk about what we're offering a better pathway so that we don't have 970 people murdered in our city every single year. Now, one is one too many, but you're not going to convince me that the people of Chicago only deserve law enforcement. I get so sick and tired of people believing that the only thing that black and brown and poor people get to get in this city are badges. People want jobs. It's why we've increased the ability for young people to have jobs in this city. People want health care and behavioral and mental health care. That's what they asked me. That's why we've expanded it. People want to be able to afford to live in this city. That's why I'm building more affordable units. People want justice if they do get wrapped up into this spiral of despair in this city. It's why
I figured it out. I figured it out. The role of government is not the things that Brandon's talking about. The role of government is not supposed to give you a job. The role of government is not supposed to build you a house or affordable house or a bigger house. That's not the role of government. I dare say the role of government is not supposed to be providing you health care and mental health care at that. Those are jobs for the sector, the private sector, and such of that nature. The problem is Brandon Johnson believes, again, as I said before, he's an ideologue. He wants to be inserted into every one of these areas. And we've seen this it's not unique to Chicago. We see this at the federal level. We see this all over the place. A lot of the things that they're doing, they're not supposed to be doing, and they're not good even at it. So therein is the problem. You're taking responsibility that people are supposed to have, that businesses are supposed to provide as benefits to workers. The government's taking those and they're doing a really poor job at it. And so Brandon Johnson, as I said before, he's gonna ride this pony all the way until the end. He's not gonna stop because it's cemented in his mind that he's supposed to do these things. The issue is that crime is too bad. And people don't see you as a strong leader, and they don't see you as they don't take you seriously. So crime continues to increase, and jobs and businesses and salaries all go down because people don't want to be there. It's really that easy.
actually solving cases, whether it's CVI workers, making sure that we're avoiding retaliation in this city. I get so sick and tired of people in this country and in this city that believes that the only thing that you can offer black people and poor people is jails, incarceration, and police officers. Dr. King.
They don't want anything else. So that's the thing. We don't need you to offer us those other things. Let me back that up because I really believe that he solidified my point right here. We don't need you to offer us everything. I don't need you to put a chicken in each pot I don't need you to do that. I need you to keep the criminals at bay. They need to be afraid of you. That's it. Watch this.
It's why we're actually solving cases, whether it's CVI workers, making sure that we're avoiding retaliation in this city. I get so sick and tired of people in this country and in this city that believes that the only thing that you can offer black people and poor people is jails, incarceration, and police officers. Dr. King said this right here in Chicago, the National Conference on New Politics. What did he say? He said, militarism is a sickness. I am trying to eradicate the sickness from this city and from this country.
But people
To
are also
offer
sick
no,
and
listen, Mark, I
tired
get to answer my question now. You've asked it.
But people
No, Mark, I'm answering my question. Of course they are. But you're not going to be able to avoid that if we don't do the things that actually work. We are not split on this issue. The fact of the matter is, no one has asked me to send federal troops into this city to make it safe. It has never come up. It never came up during the campaign. It's never come up in the first 2 years. The fact of the matter is, we are driving violence down on this city, and we're using every single resource that's available to us. Jails and incarceration and law enforcement is a sickness that has not led to safe communities. I'm going to work hard every single day to protect the people who are caught up in violence in this city. Guess why? You want to know why? Because the vast majority of them look like me. This president has never asked a very simple question to me, Brandon Scott, Barbara Lee, Randall Woodfin. He doesn't talk to black mayors about what it's like to live in communities that have been disinvested in. So no, we're not going to succumb to the sickness and the evil that Dr. King warned us about a generation ago. It didn't work in 74 when 970 people were being killed. It didn't work in the 90s. When no one said a mumbling word about how many people were losing their lives because of violence in this city. And now we're actually doing the work that's working.
I take that. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. Chicago has been a blight on society for as long as I know. I've always remembered people very upset about the amount of people that get deleted in Chicago every weekend. Every long weekend is more. During the summer, there's more. No, people have said that forever. And again, nobody's saying that Brandon Johnson is the catalyst for the problem. They just want you, they want to hold you accountable to actually resolve the problem so the next mayor can chip away at it even more and the next mayor even more till they're not just seeing multiple hundreds of people deleted every year. And this is very clear. Brandon Johnson just does not want to believe the evidence in front of him. He does not.
Now, all of a sudden, everybody has these ideas. They've shown this is a group project, but we're not going to allow the president of the United States of America or any of his ilk look at the work that we're doing across this country, and then now we're experiencing some level of reprieve, and now he wants to put his name on our paper. No, not going to tolerate it. It's a sickness, and we're going to eradicate it.
I don't know where he's getting this craziness from. I'm so sorry, Chicago. Y'all deserve better than this. Y'all deserve a leader that actually looks at the people, the citizens, as his main concern, not the criminals and not people that are there illegally. I hear more about illegals. I hear more about criminals' rights than I hear about any of the people that are being terrorized by these people in Chicago. But y'all let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you want me to, we'll start pulling in some reporter, Mr. Kelly, William Kelly, in as well. He looks like he's a hoot. And I definitely would like to hear more about some of the things he's done. So, well, we will bring him in. So shout out to William Kelly. Shout out to everybody in Chicago. Shout out to Chicago Flips Red. Let's continue to make some noise. I'd love to see y'all succeed. So until next time, everybody, grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Witt Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.